Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I know this is a tiny channel, but we talk about a lot of really important things here. I told you about the climate lockdown cities and the 15-minute cities before any of these other YouTubers were talking about it. I told you about the used car market getting ready to crash and the change that the banks made to allow people to overextend themselves and default on loans and create other banks. And we're coming back with one that's probably more important than both of those. So secretly and quietly, the EU, and I know we live in the US, but it's only a matter of time before it comes through. We're going to run over to this article out of the hedge. The EU plans to impose direct carbon taxes on individuals. I'll read you a couple snippets out of this, show you some other articles here in a second. This is really going to impact you. I'm going to give you the high level first. So basically, they're going to push down a carbon tax to each individual person. They're going to start with cars and they're going to start with your house. So basically, your car, every time you fill it up, and if you're in Europe, you're looking at 10.5 cents per liter of extra tax on gasoline to fill up your car. If you drive a diesel, you're looking at 12 cents a liter to fill up your car or your truck, whatever it is. Now, trains are exempted, agriculture and fisheries are exempted, but the individual is not. And the real kicker on this one, especially as these poor people are suffering an energy shortage, it's particularly if you live here in the US and you're thinking about going off grid or you have a wood stove, this should frighten the bejesus out of you because they're going to regard those as massive CO2 emitters and they're going to tax the ever living hell out of you. This is how they force you out of cars. This is how they force you into these 15-minute cities. They're going to make it so prohibitively expensive to be able to do anything else or to live outside of them. You're not going to have any choice. Let me read you a little bit of this article. As I write this article, I am still in shock. This is actually happening, and if this plan is successfully implemented in Europe, it will just be a matter of time before a similar plan is pushed through to the US. The following comes from the Dutch article, and I'll show you that article in a minute. Last night, after long negotiations, the bullet went through the church. Residents of the European Union must pay for the greenhouse gases they emit. This means that every time you refuel and the heating is switched on, you have to pay because of the harmful substances that are released as a result. Of course, they are starting small in an attempt to minimize opposition. Once this plan goes into effect, the cost of a liter of gasoline will only go up by 10 cents. The new scheme will entail higher prices at the pump, up to 10.5 cents for a liter of petrol and 12 cents for diesel, according to a study by the Potsdam Institute for Climate Research. But as we have seen so many times, once people become accustomed to new taxes, they tend to go up significantly. Guys, what they're trying to do is they're trying to force you to over-insulate your house, get a heat pump, and buy an electric car. And if you can't afford any of that, you don't get anything. Like it's just absolutely ridiculous. These new taxes are going to go into this social emissions fund. And basically, they're going to subsidize poor people's ability to have cars. So this is just another rob from the middle class, lower middle class, lower upper class. Everybody right there in the middle are going to get squeezed more to try to give to the bottom, and it's not going to affect them. It will affect you if you're trying to go off grid. I'm telling you, you guys, I don't even know. This is terrible. This hits the US like game over. Here's an article out of Europe. EU approves CO2 tax on heating and transport softened by new social climate fund. It's coming. It was approved on the 18th of December. It was a Sunday. Any legislation that's passed on a weekend, I find to be suspicious. Also, that the mainstream media is not talking about this should tell you that it's suspicious. Here's the webpage for the EU Parliament. You can read about it here. This is a very boring and stiff read. I found it difficult, probably by design, but I'll put the link in the description for you guys. And then over here is the Dutch article that the other article referenced. Everyone in Europe will pay for CO2 emissions. The thing that the Dutch article does go on to expand on that the Zero Hedge article did not, it looks like the EU is also going to put tariffs in place. So any goods shipped into the country will be assessed a CO2 tariff, basically. They call it a carbon border adjustment mechanism, a CBAM. CBAM is just basically a tariff by the way that I read it. So it goes on to trash the Dutch, because the Dutch are major polluters. Also, I've told you about what's happening in the Netherlands, and they're stealing the farms out from underneath of the farmers. Now here's a carbon tariff, and then carbon taxes directly on you as a person. I don't know about you, but I am not thrilled at the idea of remotely sitting in my house freezing because I can't afford to turn on the heater that is right there. I have trees on my property I could cut down to burn in my wood stove, but I won't be able to because I'll have to pay some exorbitant tax. This is what you're looking at. Like, this doesn't make you angry and scare you and get you into action. I don't know what will. You're not going off grid. You're not running from this. They're coming for you. 80,000 IRS agents, and they're going to put a carbon tax on your wood stove. How are you going to heat your house? Please tell me in the comments how you get around this. I mean, are you going to live on a mountainside with no electricity and no power, off grid, with geothermal? Somehow you're going to run that? Maybe. I don't know. I don't have a solution for you. Wind turbine, solar power, you're going to try to do electric something or other. I don't know. Let me know if you guys have ideas how to get around this, but your wood stove is going to be obsolete. Catch you guys in the next.